Welcome to the Transition Table by Organized Haven, real conversations about downsizing and life's transitions. I'm Nicole Ramer, Senior Home Coach, and today I'm joined by someone who I deeply respect, Cari Herrington of Aging Care Experts. As an aging life care manager with Aging Care Experts, Cari supports families navigating caregiving decisions, coordination, and planning, often during some of the most vulnerable seasons of life. Today, we're talking about caregiving conversations that matter before a crisis happens and how families can approach these discussions with clarity, dignity, and compassion. Cari, I'm so grateful you're here.
So glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So, how would you describe the role of an aging life care manager?
So, our job is to be an advisor to the family to help them make an educated and informed decision on their care choices, so they're not just hitting the easy button, the first option that shows up, and that they really understand why they're doing what they're doing. And then the second half of our job is to take on some of that family caregiver role to oversee care, attend doctor's appointments, kind of be their right hand man. We don't do any personal care, so I'm not caregiving in that regard of like the bathing, toileting, and dressing. But the family caregiver is usually like the adult child who is saying, we got to go to this appointment, dad, and now we have to get labs and we've got to make sure about this and that and get this done. Kind of keeping track of all the details and moving things forward is our ongoing job.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing. Talk a little bit about the association, your industry association.
Yes, so we're members of the Aging Life Care Association. It used to be called the National Association of Professional Geriatric Care Managers, which is quite a mouthful. So
Yes.
they changed it and it's called Aging Life Care. So that's what I say that we do is like we offer aging life care services because they're quite varied and it's different for every client. No two situations are exactly the same. And so the Aging Life Care Association most closely aligns with the services that we offer that encompasses them because there are a lot of other associations, maybe case management, that don't quite encapsulate our role being privately hired concierge. Like we're very flexible. We're not paid by insurance. We're not under any sort of insurance umbrellas. I'm not dealing with insurance money or how its resources are being allocated that way. I am like a concierge personal navigator for aging. So the National Association is a really great resource for us. There are members all across the country. We have a very active listserv. People ask questions to each other all the time. What do you guys do about this? Has anyone used this before? What's in this area? So we get lots of emails every day and I love it. We have a state chapter, a national chapter, and they both have conferences that we go to provide, continuing education. It's really the standard of professionalism in our industry because there's a lot to be misconstrued about care management, case management. What do these titles mean? Because there's a case manager at the hospital, and now they even in the hospital system call them care managers because it sounds nice.
Right.
Um, so what were very corporate roles are now being called care managers, which is what we were. And so I still call myself a care manager, but I say that the service we do is aging life care because
Yeah.
that's nobody else can say that.
Okay. I think that's great. It's great to have that, differential and understanding of how they compare, especially when someone else starts using that terminology and when
Mhm.
it can be so different. It's great to have colleagues around the US that you can count on too for information and education and guidance when we need it, right?
Oh yes, yes,
Yeah.
for sure.
So what typically brings families to you, and how often is it that it's already a crisis?
More often than not, I love when we get families that are proactive in their planning, but it's not the norm. What usually brings them to us is some sort of change in condition. Usually something has happened. And that's because that's usually my first question when we're talking. I explain what we do and then I'm like, but why are you calling me? What's happened? What's made you raise the red flag of, I need to get involved or I need to do something? A lot of times it is a fall or some sort of infection, maybe they have pneumonia, so they've been hospitalized for something And the family is now trying to figure out, what are we going to do? I can't be there. Who's going to be coming into the house? And then she has these follow-up appointment. Who's going to coordinate all these logistics? So yeah, usually there is something that kind of tips us over the edge about why they want us involved. I do have some families that are very proactive, and for those, we just do like a quarterly visit. So I do have a few families that know when the time comes, they don't have kids or their kids are out of town and they just know they want someone. And so we offer a lower level of service for that. But most of the time, something has happened that makes them start scrambling for resources and looking for help.
So, what do you wish that families understood sooner?
That we exist. I do. As you know, my mom owned a business that did the same service, and she got into it because she was doing all of this for her mother-in-law and felt like, why isn't there somebody who can give me the right answer so it's not just trial and error on my part? And why isn't there somebody that can be there on my level when I can't be there? Because I'm working full time or I'm taking care of my kids. I can't be there. I can't be everywhere at once. So she found this, and our national association already existed at that point. So when she stumbled across it, she was like, amazing. I wish I knew that this had existed when I was taking care of my mother-in-law. And I get that a lot even now. I'll go to health fairs and people will say, I wish I knew you existed because, my mom just passed away last year and I was doing that all alone by myself. And it was a lot. It's a lot of trial and error and a lot of figuring it out and managing the logistics. I wish I had somebody who I could have passed some stuff off to or had kind of a partner through the journey.
Exactly. I think that's what it's all about.
Yep. So I need to do a better job marketing.
Okay, well, and you're here. And so I'm
I am
spreading the
spreading
word
the
for
word.
you. Yes. And we do a lot of that right here in Polk County. And so I'm really grateful for the support that we have with our network of
Yeah.
other senior serving professionals and people that really trust us and believe in the support that we provide. But at the end of the day, there's still so many people that don't know that you exist. And
Hmm.
there's got to be more resources out there. So I was glad to see you two at the Lakeland Senior Hub and excited to see how that progresses.
Me too. Yeah. It should be really, really a great resource for Lakeland.
Yes. But people are still online. So here we are from the
Yes.
comfort of our own home offices,
Yeah. Yeah.
sharing the information that our seniors so desperately need and their families.
Hmm.
So I recently saw that about 70% of older adults, those over 65, that they'll need some term of long care or long-term support at some point. And yet again, as we've just discussed, most families don't plan for that. So why do you think families still avoid these conversations, even when the need is statistically likely?
I think it's hard to look into your own future and not want the best. I think we all want to believe the best in ourselves and our future and hope that it won't be us. I think being intentional about your risk management is just not common. I think people think they'll figure it out when they get to it, as probably do we do in a lot of ways in our lives. But when we're younger, we do most of the time have more time. And it is something that we can continue to juggle and manage and figure out. And when your body or your mind start failing, then it is a lot harder to juggle and figure it out and manage it. So why they wait, I think, I don't want to say denial. I think a lot of people acknowledge it's coming, but they don't always want to go through the effort of figuring out, what do I really want, because they want to be hopeful. I just want to stay home and I want to
Hmm.
die in my sleep. And
Yes.
we know that's not likely, but that is, I mean, all the time I talk to people and they say, I want to stay home. And I say, okay, absolutely. Let's help. I can help do that. You can stay home as long as you want, but let's
Hmm.
do it well. Let's do it safely. So let's talk about, what are your financial resources? What's your home look like? Is it adaptable for a walker or a wheelchair? What are your financial resources if you need to pay for in-home care? Are you going to be able to do that for a long period of time? There's a lot to consider. It's not as easy as just, I want to stay home. There's not government funding for 24/7 care. So you can't just rely on somebody else, but people don't want to accept that they may have to go somewhere else for budgetary reasons. They've probably spent their whole life building these reserves and these savings, and to have to kind of accept that they're going to have to use that to live in a place they don't want to live. Not that those places aren't great. We have some wonderful communities, but there is still kind of a stigma around it, and people want to stay where they have chosen. So I think it's getting comfortable with the idea, helping them understand that it is still their choice. They are still autonomous. They can still be the one in control. They're not losing control. And really, by planning, they're the ones having the most control.
Exactly. Yes. So you touched on it a little bit. Nearly 75 to 80% of seniors want to be carried out in a big wooden box and that be their last move, right? So yes, you're right. They want to remain in their homes. They want to be able to age in place. And I'm so grateful that that term is more understood today than it
Hmm.
ever was before too. So they know what that means.
Hmm.
But and so again, you touched on it, but if aging in place is their goal, what specifically needs to be true for that to work out safely for them in the long term?
Uh,
In terms of safety in their
cut this out.
home?
Sorry. No, it just like slowed down a little bit there. So
Okay.
can you just repeat your question there? What specifically needs to be?
Yes, if aging in place is the goal, what specifically needs to happen, do you feel, in their home for that to work out safely?
Hmm.
But, considering maybe at this point they have no hearing loss or loss of mobility
Sure.
or, they've not really seen those signs yet, those true aging signs that cause any kind of worry or concern or fear before all of that starts. What do you think makes the most sense to aging in place safety?
Taking care of yourself more than anything. It's not about the environment at the beginning. It's about you. It's about maintaining your strength and your health and being proactive about anything that is happening, taking care of it, not waiting until it's too late. So, exercising, eating right, and then accepting the little bits of help earlier is way better than waiting until there's a huge need. So, put in grab bars. I mean, that's pretty inconsequential. And even in a beautiful home, you can have grab bars and it's not going to ruin the look of your beautiful bathroom. But having that could prevent a fall. So if you have a grab bar, then having things to kind of support you before you even really need it is going to help you stay there longer. The same as like medications. People, have a system. A lot of people don't want to have a pill box for some reason, that kind of a stigma against that. But you need to have a good way to track it and make sure that you're taking your medications correctly. If you miss a dose or you accidentally take 2 doses, those can have some pretty big impacts. So it's better on the front end to be organized and proactive and have structure so that you're avoiding the mistakes, because it's those little slips that then become bigger falls. And if you can avoid the slip, then you don't have a fall,
Yes. I love that
you
this
know?
conversation has led this way or led us I love that our conversation has led us this direction. I actually didn't even think it would, but I think about this all the time, even though my work is really about the safety of the space more than anything at all.
Mhm.
But I think about health and wellness and exercise all the time. I turned 43 and I have a hard time getting down and getting back up without my knees hurting. And
Mm.
I just did some Pilates this morning and I just watched Jessica Valant on YouTube. And so I'm able to do it right in my own bedroom, laundry room. It depends on who's around where I'm doing it.
Uh-huh.
But you notice early into that start of exercising, whatever that looks like for you, how
Mhm.
important it's just so very obvious how important that is to be able to continue to move safely and independently without the use of any
Yeah,
aids and
for
maybe
sure.
even avoid knee surgery.
Yeah, I mean, half the reason I get up and work out in the mornings is because I see my clients, and I if I have anything to do with it, I will not age the way some of them have aged. And I don't want to be, condescending, and some of them it wasn't their fault or they couldn't control it, but I want to be as strong and resilient and healthy as long as possible. And it's hard when you see people that are are not able to do things that they want to do and they don't have the quality of life that they want. And your physical abilities have such a huge impact on that. So the more that you do now, the longer it's going to last. Even at 70, even at 80. If you can do 10 push-ups at 80, you're going to be able to do 2 at 90. I mean, it's like the more you can do every day is going to push out the end time of when you can no longer do things.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too, that it really never is too late to start. There's always
Yeah.
some, method that
I
is
love those
possible.
stories, YouTube videos you'll see on like Instagram, TikTok of like these little old ladies who are like, I never worked out a day in my life, but here I am, 78, and now I am like pumping iron and doing pull-ups. It's amazing.
Absolutely. There's an exercise platform and method for all of us, no
Yeah,
matter what age we are or stage in life, or again, our abilities to be mobile. Okay,
yeah.
so let's talk about proactive planning and what that actually looks like. What does a healthy caregiving conversation look like? What are those conversations that you're having every day with your clients and their families?
Sure. Being open about what our roles are and what your choices are and honoring each other's choices and, understanding what the parents, if this family caregiver is an adult child, understanding what their value system is and knowing that you need to honor that. Because I see that a lot of times that parents will, trust their children and their children are doing what they think is best for the adult, the parent, but they're not always taking into consideration what the parent wanted or valued. I think they're just thinking, well, this is what I think is best. Well, I mean, there's maybe not one is right and one is wrong. There's just this is maybe what matters to you, but it's maybe not what matters to them. And so sometimes we're in the middle kind of doing a bit of almost mediation of like let's talk about there's the like bare minimum what have to be done in terms of safety. And then we have some options, right? Of like, is it a facility or is it in home care? And there's a lot of implications and trying to understand what the parent is probably afraid of. That's what I'm usually trying to dig down into is like, what are you afraid of happening? What are you what do you think is the downside to taking this path that they want? And then the same from the kids. It's like, what's your objective here? What are you trying to do? You just trying to keep them from dying? I mean, that's fine, right? That's an important thing. But also, they want to live. They don't want to just not die. They want to live. So how can we find some middle ground here of let's honor what they want. Let's honor what you want too, of course. But just because you're power of attorney doesn't mean that what you say goes. We have to find um some way to integrate it. So anyway, of like how to have these conversations, do it when nothing's happening. You know?
Yeah,
It doesn't have to be, oh, we're going to the doctor, so let's talk about it. Could be Sunday afternoon. Dad, we've never talked about this. Uh, who is your power of attorney? Do you have one? Do you want to stay home? What matters to you? Do you want to be close to me? Because I don't live here anymore. And when it comes time for you to need help, I'd love to be involved. Be honest about your feelings or your availability or what you want. And the parents should too, because, this is their life. And it's hard to, I think, approach the subject. But once you do, it's way better to just have it behind you. And sometimes you have to say hard
that's right.
things or be uncomfortable, but it's worth it because otherwise you're in the dark and then you're making decisions and you don't have a roadmap. You don't have any sort of knowledge of what they would have wanted if they could have told you.
Right. I love that. How can older adults, if we look at it from their perspective, how can they express their wishes without feeling like they're giving up their independence?
Okay, so this is I don't know that I love when older adults do this, but I have had some clients execute their advanced directives but not tell their kids. I'm like, okay, well, I'm glad that you have them done. I think that if you trust your kids enough, you should be able to tell them, I made you my power of attorney. But they're very afraid of losing independence of just because somebody's designated power of attorney, they're going to immediately take over. So helping like them, I mean, this is some of what I do to help them feel like they're still independent is making sure they're aware that these are their choices in the things that they can have choices about. There are still choices. Even if you decide, or the general consensus is you need an assisted living facility. You need that level of support and it makes more financial
Sense.
sense to go that route, you can still choose which one. And or if you need to stop driving, it doesn't mean you've lost all independence. You're not stuck at home all day. Okay? You can have a driver and you tell them where to go. So, honoring the choices they can make and, laying out a detailed roadmap helps people feel in charge. So, sometimes, like, we're talking to families, like, what's your criteria? You've assigned this person to make decisions for you. And a living will isn't an example of this, but we can do it on a broader scope and more detailed. But a living will basically gives the healthcare surrogate the guidelines that the person would want. They're not obligated to follow those guidelines, but they should because this is what the person said they wanted or didn't want. We can do that like across your whole scope of whatever matters to you in terms of your living, your care, all that kind of stuff. Having them understand that this is your choice and having somebody to advocate for them to make sure that those choices are honored also helps because they're often afraid my kids are just going to take over and then I'm like what then what. So we're often telling them like, no, we're here to make sure they don't just you know, just put you away and never talk to you. Not that they do that, but that is kind of a feeling of
With
they're
you.
just going to take over and not honor me. And so I always tell them like, no, that's what we're here for. We're here to make sure your voice is still heard. We'll write it down right now. We'll create a like long-term life care plan of what do you want, when do you want it, what kind of criteria is going to dump you into the next bucket, and then if you're in that bucket, what's your criteria for where you want to be and why, and then I can give this to your kids. And if your kids aren't following this, then I'll address it and talk to them about it and say, hey, this is something that was really important to your parents, and we think it's feasible. So why are we not doing it?
It's it's great to have, 1, an accountability partner, and 2, yes, someone that can be that in-between person to make sure everyone's wishes are considered, but most importantly, the senior who we're trying to care
Yeah.
for, you
Yes.
and the family. Let's see, let's talk about preventing crisis patterns. What are the most common crisis patterns that you see?
Probably not addressing things that need to be addressed. It's like, I guess the most all-encompassing way to put it. Clearly, there are things going wrong and no one is doing anything about it. Like a very common mentality that I see is adult children saying basically, well, my parents have, I can't force my parent. I can't force them. Well, you're right, but there's things other than force,
Right.
right? There's just conversations, there's sympathy, persuasion, like empathy. We can take a different approach than just you have to do this now. So, but I think a lot of adult children, it's hard this role reversal, right? As things are starting to switch. It went from I'm the parent, you're the child. And now we're slowly for a while we're kind of peers, right? We're both adults, maybe we're both parents, we're independent financially. And then suddenly you're kind of switching. And that brings up a lot of emotions. And the parents, especially, they don't want to let go. They don't want their kids in charge of them. And the kids are sometimes uncomfortable being in charge. They don't know how to be assertive to their parents or to take the reins from them. And that's not necessary in every situation, but some situations it is. I mean, if there's cognitive decline or something, they do need to step in.
Mhm.
And I see sometimes them kind of letting it go because they feel like they can't, that it's still their parent is an autonomous human that they should just make their own decisions and it's kind of like not my responsibility. But that kind of mentality leads to a crisis because then they're living at home alone with no support and they're not doing a good job and then something goes wrong.
Right. Want to lighten this up a little bit and just ask you personally, when you're not supporting families, whether you're preparing in advance, with them or it is a last minute crisis when you're not focused on their support, what fills your cup?
Getting outside, nature. I would
Yeah.
say, like, my undergraduate degree is wildlife ecology, which is not at all related to this, though obviously my mom and I used to joke about the different types of wildlife we would be dealing with. Um, but I love nature. I love getting outside. I do love moving my body and staying healthy and exercising. Adventure, getting out into like the real wilderness. I like to go places where like you can't hear cars.
Yeah. I love that. Uh-huh.
And I have kids and a dog, so they're usually in tow and they fill my cup all the time, of course. But that's like my escape is to go get out where it's really peaceful and I feel like it's the true wild spaces.
Huh. Yeah, well, and that gives you your work-life balance that you so greatly
Yes,
deserve.
for sure.
If you could give one piece of advice to families that are listening right now, what would it be?
And a care manager in your area and get them on your team. For
Yes.
sure. I mean, what I think is beautiful about our job is I'm obligated to no one other than my client and their families. And I'm not going to claim to be perfect, but my job is to be pretty knowledgeable about the local resources and the differences in providers and the differences in facilities and what the options are. I think I'm a pretty good one-stop shop of what do we need, when do we need it, how do we pay for it, etc. So it can be really helpful on the front end to have some of that knowledge that other people don't gain until they've been through three different places or providers. Like, I did not realize there was a difference between a nurse registry and a caregiver agency. I had no idea, right? Or I didn't know that what this facility could do and that one couldn't do. So it's kind of, I think it's very helpful on the front end to have somebody lay it out for you and help you understand, and then to be able to lean on during the hard time because they're going to come. It is, we're dealing with end of life. It's hopefully years. I don't want people to call me like I'm not hospice. I don't want people to call me a week before their loved one passes, but I am probably looking at the last 20 years of their life, right? Maybe the last 10, 5.
Which none of us know when that's coming, truthfully.
Sure. Right. Yeah, absolutely. And so that's a really difficult time because there's a lot of logistics. There is a lot of decline with your health, no matter what. I mean, all of us, I think, wish that we would just have a heart attack and be done, but that's not the norm. It's not what's going to happen for most of us. So there will be things to address. And to have to be an adult child managing these logistics, kind of convincing your parents they need help, and to still be a daughter going through the emotions of watching your parents decline is hard. It's a really heavy load to carry alone. And
Without
I
carry.
think, yeah,
Carry without carry. Don't carry
don't
it
carry your load.
without carry.
Carrie will carry that.
Yeah.
So I think it's just a gift to yourself, honestly, to find a care manager and get an ally on board because we stay with our clients no matter where they go. And I have had clients on board for years. I have a client that was on board with my mom's company, and that means I've known her for 12 years. My mom has probably known her for more like 16, and we know the adult children very well. Yeah, our level of involvement has gone like this through the years because they didn't always need as much, but we're always here when they do need us. And I think that's a beautiful thing that a lot of family caregivers, they feel their emotional responsibility. It's my family. I have to do it. And I totally respect that. But I want them to see that there can be a partner in it. I'm not going to take over anything for you if you don't want me to, but I can just carry the load with you.
Carrie, thank you so much. You brought
Thank
so much
you. This has been
clarity,
great.
and compassion to this conversation, and I know that families listening, they'll feel less alone and more empowered because of what you shared.
Well,
So,
thank you.
yes, thank you. For those who want to learn more about aging care experts, we'll include their information in the description below. And if this conversation resonated with you, please subscribe to Organized Haven's YouTube channel and share this episode with someone who may need it. Until next time, this is the Transition Table.